There's something important most people overlook. The way you speak to yourself matters deeply. Every thought you repeat, every internal phrase, every story you tell yourself, these shape your reality. It's not about luck, motivation, or waiting for ideal conditions. It's about the inner dialogue playing in your mind each day. Here's what's essential to understand. Your brain listens to your words. It accepts them as truth. If you constantly feed it doubt, fear, and negativity, that's the lens through which you'll experience life. The good news is, this pattern can be changed. You have the ability to shift that internal conversation. You can move from self-defeating thoughts to self-directed growth. It begins with choosing your words carefully, starting from the moment you wake up. This is critical because your internal dialogue influences your decisions, your emotions, and your confidence. Your entire perception of life is filtered through your beliefs, and those beliefs are continually shaped by what you tell yourself. You get to decide whether those beliefs support or hinder you. But it takes awareness. You must take ownership of your mindset. Consider the last time you felt overwhelmed or stuck. Maybe it was recently, or maybe it happens regularly. What were you telling yourself? I can't do this. I'm not ready. Why bother? Those aren't facts, they're mental scripts. The issue is when you repeat these scripts long enough, they begin to feel real. But they're not. They're habits. And like any habit, they can be changed. Here's what science shows us. Your brain is always forming and strengthening neural pathways. Repeating a thought reinforces that pathway, making it more automatic. If you regularly tell yourself, I'm not enough, that becomes your default. But if you begin saying, I can handle this, I'll find a way, or I'm doing my best and that's okay, you start to build new pathways. You literally rewire your brain to support you rather than hold you back. This isn't just motivational language. This is grounded in neuroscience. It's how thoughts and behaviors are formed. So if you want to change how you feel, you start by changing your self-talk. You don't wait to feel confident. You choose words that build confidence. You don't wait to feel prepared. You say, let's begin, and take action. Yes, this requires effort. It won't feel natural right away, especially if negative self-talk has been your default for a long time. But your brain is capable of change. That's neuroplasticity in action. You can train your mind just like a muscle. Each day is a new opportunity to choose better thoughts, to create a stronger internal narrative, and to tell yourself a more accurate story. Not the fear, not the excuses, but the truth about who you are and what you can do. Here's something I remind myself every morning. You're in control. That phrase is my anchor. When I say it, I remember I don't have to be guided by emotion. I don't have to follow fear. And I'm not required to believe every passing thought. I can pause, I can lead myself. And so can you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to have every answer. But you do need to be present for yourself. Stop tearing yourself down from the inside. Because if you won't support yourself, who will? If you don't give your dreams the energy they deserve, who? If you don't affirm your own strength, capability, and resilience, your mind will revert to doubt. It will default to fear. And you deserve better than that. Here's the core message. Your words carry weight. Use them with care. Every day, say something that propels you forward. Something that stabilizes you. Something that reminds you of your potential, your direction, and your strength. Because the life you're building starts with how you speak to yourself. I am capable of doing hard things. This mindset begins with daily self-talk. It's a key factor that often goes unnoticed in mindset change. If you're aiming for real, lasting transformation, it's essential to understand how your brain works. And repetition plays a major role. Your brain learns through patterns. It constantly seeks efficiency, turning repeated thoughts and behaviors into habits. That's neuroplasticity, one of your most powerful assets. Let's make it simple. Every time you think a thought or take an action, your brain activates a neural pathway. The more you repeat that thought or action, the stronger that pathway becomes. Over time, it turns into a habit, something you do or think automatically. That's how routines are created. That's why saying intentional positive statements to yourself regularly isn't just encouraging, it's brain training. You are shaping the way you think. Now think about the thoughts you've repeated for years. For many, they're negative. The inner critic, the self-doubt. Thoughts like, I'm not enough. I always mess things up. No one takes me seriously. You probably didn't choose those thoughts on purpose. Maybe they came from past experiences, from things others said, or from fear. But they've been repeated so often, they now feel like truth. The reality is they're not facts. They're simply well-rehearsed beliefs. The good news, you can change them. You can rebuild those pathways with new thoughts, new language, and new beliefs. But this requires repetition. One positive phrase isn't enough to change your mindset overnight. It's the consistent, deliberate repetition that creates lasting mental change. That's not how the brain functions. You may have spent years, possibly decades, repeating negative thoughts, and that's okay, because the moment you decide to do the work, to consistently show up and speak to yourself in a better way, things begin to shift. It won't be immediate, but change happens. One intentional thought at a time. Picture starting each morning with the phrase, I am in control of my choices. At first, it might feel unnatural. You might not fully believe it. That's normal, but you say it anyway, daily. You make it part of your morning routine. Over time, your brain begins to recognize the pattern. It becomes familiar. The more you repeat it, the more natural it feels. And then one day, in a moment where you would usually react with stress or fear, you pause, you breathe, and almost instinctively, the phrase comes to mind. I am in control of my choices. You respond instead of react. That isn't random. That's neuroplasticity at work. This same principle applies to any affirmation that aligns with who you want to become. I can handle this. I'm improving every day. My goals matter. These are not just words. They're tools. With repetition, they reshape your mindset, influence your confidence, and impact your behavior. But you have to speak them with purpose, not just occasionally, not only on good days, every single day. There's a common misconception that affirmations must be believed right away to be effective. That's not true. You're not trying to fool yourself. You're developing belief, and belief grows with repetition. You didn't suddenly acquire self-doubt. It was formed over time. Confidence, clarity, and courage work the same way. They're not automatic. They're earned through steady, intentional practice. It's important to understand this. Your brain is not against you. It's not trying to sabotage your progress. It's simply following the programming it has received over time. That's why you have the ability to retrain it. But it takes daily effort. You need to be mindful of what you say, how you say it, and how often it's repeated. Repetition is the key to reshaping your mindset. It's how old mental habits are replaced with stronger, more supportive ones. It's how you move from I can't to I will. So don't expect instant results from saying something positive once. Repeat it until it becomes your default. Repeat it until it feels real. Repeat it until your brain adjusts to match the future you're working toward. Because when you use repetition intentionally, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're transforming your identity. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's not a rare trait only a few people have. Confidence is a skill, just like learning to ride a bike, speak a new language, or build strength in the gym. Confidence is not something you're born with. It's something you build. It can be developed, practiced, and strengthened over time. And that process begins with how you speak to yourself every day. Many people are led to believe that confidence comes only after success, after you reach a goal, get a promotion, or prove your worth. But that thinking is backwards. Real confidence shows up before the result, not after it. Confidence isn't about the outcome. It's about believing you can handle whatever happens. That belief doesn't appear overnight. It grows through repetition, consistent action, and daily self-talk. You won't always feel confident or ready, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to show up anyway. Each time you say to yourself, I can handle this, or I don't need to have all the answers to begin, you're reinforcing the mental foundation that confidence stands on. A common mistake is waiting to feel confident before taking action. But confidence doesn't come first. Action does. You take a step, move forward, despite the doubt, and gradually prove to yourself that you're capable. This process creates a cycle. Action builds evidence, and that evidence forms belief. The more often you take on challenges, the more your brain learns that you can manage discomfort and that you're stronger than you thought. However, when faced with discomfort, your brain will naturally want to avoid it. That's its way of protecting you, keeping you in familiar territory. But growth doesn't happen where it's comfortable. That's why intentional self-talk is so important. When fear-based thoughts appear, you can interrupt them with empowering ones. That's how you move forward even when it feels hard, by guiding yourself with words that encourage, rather than limit you. Think about someone who seems naturally confident, like a strong public speaker. Chances are they weren't always that way. They practiced, they made mistakes, they worked through fear, self-doubt, and failure. But each time they showed up again, they strengthened their confidence. You can do the same in any area of your life, whether it's your goals, your relationships, or your career. You just have to stop telling yourself that you're not the kind of person who can. You are. You just need more practice. So start small. Speak to yourself with purpose and consistency. Remind yourself that confidence is not about being perfect. It's about making progress. Say things that move you forward and repeat them daily. Confidence isn't a gift. It's a skill. And like any skill, it becomes stronger the more you use it. Your words, your actions, and your mindset together create the confidence you're looking for. Saying things like, I'm learning, and that's okay, or I don't need to be perfect to be proud of myself, isn't about empty positivity. These are practical mental tools. They help shift your mindset from fear to growth. In moments of doubt or pressure, these phrases serve as a way to reframe your perspective and maintain control over your internal state. The key is to become aware of what you're saying to yourself. When your thoughts begin to spiral, pause and ask, what am I telling myself right now? Is it helpful or harmful? That single question can interrupt the cycle. Once you're aware, you can shift the dialogue. You can choose language that steadies, rather than shakes you. Words that calm your mind instead of amplifying stress. This becomes especially critical in high-pressure moments, before a presentation, during a tough conversation, or when making a big decision. If your internal dialogue is filled with doubt, your emotional state will reflect that. But if you ground yourself with affirming phrases like I've prepared for this, I can handle this, or even a simple breathe and stay steady, you create space to perform at your best, even when you feel nervous. And this doesn't just influence how you feel internally. Your emotional state shapes your interactions with others. When you manage your inner dialogue, you show up more calm, more confident, and more connected. That self-regulation can improve your relationships, your work, and your impact. So it's important not to underestimate the influence of your self-talk. Your words are tools, and how you use them matters. Each day you have the chance to influence your emotional experience, not by controlling external circumstances, but by choosing your inner response. Speak to yourself with the same care and respect you'd offer someone else who matters, because you do matter. The way you talk to yourself directly affects how you feel and how you approach the world around you. This idea ties directly into a psychological principle known as cognitive framing. It refers to the way your brain interprets situations based on how you mentally frame them. You're doing this all the time, often without realizing it. If you let fear, past setbacks, or other people's opinions define your interpretation of events, you reinforce limiting beliefs. But when you choose to frame situations in a way that supports you, everything begins to shift. Your mood, your choices, and your outcomes. Your brain filters reality based on these mental frames. If you see a challenge as a threat, your stress response activates. But if you see it as a chance to grow, your brain adapts accordingly. And so do you. When you frame a challenge as an opportunity to grow, your brain shifts into a more productive state. It becomes focused on solving problems, not avoiding them. You feel calmer, more open-minded, and more capable. The situation itself hasn't changed, but your response to it has. For example, if you're asked to lead a project, give a presentation, or take on a new role, your response depends entirely on your mindset. If your internal dialogue says, I'm not ready for this, you'll likely feel uncertain and hesitate. But if you frame it as, this is a chance to grow, and I'll learn as I go, you still feel nervous, but also confident and willing to step up. This is the core of why self-talk is so important. Your internal dialogue is what shapes the mental frame through which you experience the world. If you catch yourself thinking things like, "I always mess things up," or "I'll probably fail," you're setting a frame of discouragement. That leads to hesitation, withdrawal, or even burnout. But when you reframe those thoughts with "this is temporary," or "one step at a time," you activate a mindset rooted in resilience. The words you choose matter because they influence how you move forward, or whether you move forward at all. It's important to note that framing is not about ignoring reality. You're not pretending everything is easy or ideal. You're choosing to respond with clarity rather than emotion, with intention rather than fear. It's about maintaining perspective and giving yourself a better chance at growth. Life will continue to present difficult situations. That's unavoidable. But the way you choose to interpret and respond to those situations is within your control. Consider a practical example. Two people lose their jobs. One tells themselves, "I've failed. This is a disaster." The other says, "This is a chance to find a better fit and take charge of my direction." The difference isn't in their qualifications. It's in their framing, and it's often the person who takes the more empowering view, who recovers faster, learns more, and moves forward with purpose. This applies to everyday situations too. Running late? You can frame it as a stressful failure, or as a brief pause before the day begins. Got rejected? You can frame it as proof that you're not good enough, or as a step closer to something that's right for you. The way you frame these moments becomes your experience, and over time, your experience becomes your life. So here's a practical challenge. Begin paying attention to your thoughts, and ask yourself regularly, is this frame helping me or hurting me? That single question can break a negative thought cycle. It can bring you back to the present, shift your mindset from reactive to intentional, and give you space to move forward with clarity. The more often you do this, the more natural it becomes, just like training any other skill. Reframing is a skill that can be strengthened through repetition. It starts by refusing to let your default thoughts shape your reality. Don't allow fear, doubt, or negativity to become the lens through which you interpret everything. Take control of how you frame your experience. Use words that support you. Choose perspectives that encourage action, rather than avoidance. Remind yourself that you have more influence than you realize. How you view your circumstances often shapes how you respond, and that's where your real power lies. Many people go through life simply reacting to situations, to opinions, to fear or uncertainty. They operate on autopilot, letting external factors control their internal state. But it doesn't have to be that way. You're not a passive observer of your own life. You have the ability to choose how you interpret what happens, and that choice can significantly shift your mindset. One of the most powerful decisions you can make is to focus on what's within your control. When life feels overwhelming or uncertain, the quickest way to regain your sense of stability is to narrow your attention to what you can actually influence. There is always something within reach: your effort, your mindset, your words, your attitude. You may not control how others act, or how situations unfold, but you do control how you respond. That kind of focus doesn't always seem dramatic, but it forms the core of emotional resilience. By focusing on what you can control, you conserve energy and redirect it to something productive. You stop the cycle of overthinking, blaming, and waiting for something outside of you to change. Instead, you take ownership of your thoughts and your actions. That shift is where real progress begins. It's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward, even if only by one step at a time. It's easy to fall into the habit of trying to control everything: how people see you, how outcomes unfold, or how smoothly things go. But that desire for control often leads to stress and frustration. The truth is, the more you try to control what's outside of your influence, the more powerless you feel. Letting go of what you can't control creates space to focus on what actually matters. It brings clarity, calm, and momentum. Take this example. You're working toward a goal and things aren't moving as fast as you'd hoped. You can't control timing or others' decisions, but you can control how you show up today. You can choose whether to focus on the delay or on your next. You can either let frustration stop you, or remind yourself why you started. That internal decision, your commitment to keep going, is where transformation begins. When you shift your attention from outcomes to effort, you begin to build real progress from the inside out. When you begin trusting yourself more, you stop waiting for perfect conditions or approval. You build resilience because you understand you're not powerless in the face of challenges. You are the consistent factor amid uncertainty. You decide how to think, how to act, and how to guide yourself through difficulty. It's not just about what you do, it's also about how you think. You might not be able to stop a negative thought from showing up, but you can choose what comes next. For example, if your mind says, "I can't do this," you can respond with, "I'll take it step by step." That's the foundation of emotional discipline. You might feel stressed, but still remind yourself, "I've faced hard things before. I can handle this too." That's real strength. It's how you lead yourself in uncertain times. This mindset is what separates people who grow from those who remain stuck. It's not about luck or talent. It's about consistently focusing on what you can influence and letting go of what you can't. Each day gives you that choice. You can choose to stay in complaint or take a step forward. You can focus on the past or concentrate on the next move. You can give away your sense of control or hold on to it. Ask yourself, what is in my hands right now? What can I do with the time and tools I have today? It might be a small step, a shift in attitude, or a reminder that setbacks don't define the outcome. Whatever it is, do it today and again tomorrow, because those small, consistent efforts build confidence and calm, no matter what's happening around you. This is how a strong, fulfilling life is created, not through waiting or hoping, but by taking ownership, day by day. Each decision becomes part of your growth. That's how you make progress. That's how you develop. And in the long run, that's how you succeed. One of the most limiting beliefs people hold is that their past defines them, that mistakes, setbacks, or missed opportunities determine what's possible going forward. But your past is only one part of your story. It's not the final chapter unless you stop writing. If you continue revisiting old memories or failures, you may miss the moment where things begin to change for the better. Everyone has experienced regret, uncertainty, or times of feeling stuck, but none of that means you have to stay where you've been. The only time your past holds you back is when you carry it into your present. If you keep telling yourself, "I always fail," or "I'm not the kind of person who can succeed," you create a mindset that blocks progress. That story becomes a barrier, and the truth is, you're the only one who can remove it. You don't need anyone's permission to take the next step. You don't have to wait for perfect timing or for someone else to tell you it's okay to begin. You have the power to choose that moment, and it can be right now. You get to say, "I've grown from my experiences. I'm stronger now, and I won't let my past define what comes next." That's what real growth looks like. It's not about forgetting the past, it's about learning from it and refusing to let it control your future. There's a reason the windshield is larger than the rearview mirror. Where you're going matters more than where you've been. It's okay to glance back, to reflect and to learn, but don't keep looking behind you. Don't get stuck in regret. Don't let guilt or old mistakes keep you from moving forward. You are not your past decisions. You're not the person you used to be. You know more now. You've grown, and you're allowed to move on. One of the most powerful things you can say to yourself is, "I forgive myself." That doesn't mean you're saying what happened was right. It means you're no longer willing to carry the burden of it forever. It means giving yourself a real chance to rebuild, to grow, to try again. That's what healing looks like. Everyone has moments they regret. Everyone stumbles, but not everyone chooses to rise. The people who do rise aren't better or luckier. They've just made a different choice. They've decided to stop letting the past hold them back. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to? What story from your past is stopping you from stepping into your full potential? Is it something you failed at? A relationship that ended? A dream you gave up on too early? Whatever it is, it happened. It's over, and it doesn't get to take your future from you unless you keep giving it that power. The moment you choose to stop letting it lead your life is the moment you take your power back. And that choice, that's completely up to you. You get to rewrite the story starting today. Start talking to yourself like someone who's allowed to grow. Say that version of me did the best they could with what they knew, but I'm not that person anymore. Now you've got more strength, more clarity, and more tools. You're becoming the best version of yourself. Not by erasing the past, but by rising above it. That kind of self-talk can truly change your life. It helps shift your mindset from feeling stuck to feeling capable, from seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, to realizing you're the one shaping what comes next. You can't rewrite the past, but you can choose the meaning you give. You can see it as evidence that you endured, that you learned, and that you're still here, still trying, still growing, and that matters. The fact that you're still standing means your story isn't finished. In fact, the most powerful chapters might still be ahead. So don't live like your best days are behind you. Live like the best is yet to come. Because it is. The past is done. The lessons stay. But the shame doesn't have to. What you have is today, this moment. And that's more than enough to begin again. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're finally ready to trust that your future can be different. You're not stuck. You're just at the beginning of becoming who you're meant to be. Keep going, keep growing, and whatever you do, don't look back.